Hello, welcome to the Fin Addicts Miami Dolphins podcast, hosted by me, the seriously sad Savak. Oh man, that was a rough one today. Buffalo edging out Miami 31-28. Josh Allen had himself a career day against our defense. 417 yards, 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs went off, 8 catches, 153 yards, a touchdown, and Byron Jones left our secondary early with a groin injury. Oh, man. Hard Rock Stadium also lost power, and CBS missed about 10 minutes of the game coverage, including a Devontae Parker touchdown, a Buffalo touchdown, and then the game was also later delayed at the beginning of the third quarter for 30 minutes due to lightning. So now, kick it over here to my co-host. I am joined by Brian Byrne. Brian, how you doing?
Yes, Savak, I've been better. I don't know about you guys, but I never recovered from missing that 10 minutes. When CBS lost the coverage of the game, and I had to watch Pittsburgh, and I don't even know who they were playing, but somebody's second-string quarterback. I was just losing my freaking mind for the amount of money I pay on DirecTV. And I just never got back into a calm state, even when we took a lead. But just want to talk about a couple of really exciting things that are going on at Fin Addicts Network. If you are not in our Fin Addicts Network Fantasy Football League, you are missing out. We have 5 leagues. There are some serious battles going on, some shit-talking going on. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you get in that next year. I'm in 2 leagues, I think, of the 5, and I think I'm winning in both of them. So that's pretty rad. But we also have something kicking off this week where we have a survivor pool. The prize, so it's a $25 entry. The prize is 75% of the entry fees, which right now stands about, I think, around $800. And we're going to donate 20% of it to the JT Foundation. The other prize, and with the prize that would be cooler to me, is Jason Taylor has given us an autographed piece of memorabilia. So you're going to get the cash, you're going to get the Jason Taylor autograph, and you get to help out a charity. If you're not a Jason Taylor fan, I promise I will buy that autograph from you. So sign up today. You can email us at info@FinAddictsNetwork, or you can find us over on Twitter. The other really, really exciting thing we got going on is we need to get our YouTube numbers up, because apparently when you hit 1,000 subscriptions, you can do all kinds of live features. So we need to get there. We're going to give away a free hat for every new subscription and every retweet of that post. So you have you'll be entered to win a $40 hat from Fanatics.com. Your choice of hat. All you have to do is subscribe. Send us over on Twitter a screenshot of your subscription and retweet the post. You're entered to win. Super cool. There's amazing content on there. You know, this show is going to be on there, but like we interviewed Sammy Smith this week. We interviewed Chris Chambers last week. We have an interview tomorrow that is going to blow everyone out of their mind. So please subscribe to the Fin Addicts Network on YouTube. Real easy, YouTube.com/Fin Addicts Network. And hopefully if you guys subscribe enough, I will get out of this deep depression.
Mm-hmm. This is very good, man. I hear you trying so hard not to say it, and I wish you would just say it. Jason Taylor graph. You invented a word. You need to use it. We need to scream it from the rooftops.
You win a Jason Taylor graph.
Thank you. Takes me over here. Jason, how you doing today, man?
I'm definitely skewing towards where Brian's at. Very upset. Both of Brian and I mentioned a lot. We went to school in Buffalo. This is always the week that I really, really want. And we didn't get it. We were close. There's a couple of little positives to take, but there were, I think, a few more negatives clearly with the loss. But, this was a tough one.
To say the least, which takes us over to Drew. How you doing today, man?
Rough one to watch, but I think my time has finally come. In my other life, I am in charge of reliability. Stephen Ross, give me a call. I'll get you generators. I'll get you UPSs. The show will go on. The show will go on.
Nice.
The declaration. But we are joined and honored, actually, to be joined by Alex Donno of 5 Reasons Sports. Now, I understand a belated happy birthday is in order.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Hold
don't thank
on.
me yet.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday.
Beautiful.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
And
Hope you
just
made a
smell
wish.
like one.
You.
Oh, see, we should have brought a cake. That would have been so great.
I've had enough cake. I'm good.
See, but I haven't had enough cake.
Uh,
So either way, you are all over the place with 5 Reasons. 5:60 a.m. The Joe, the Canes pregame, and if I'm not mistaken, a little bit of football, as they call it around the world, everywhere but here.
yeah, I've even got my Inter Miami hat on. They won yesterday. It's funny, though, because this is one of the first years in a while that I'm not doing anything with the Dolphins in an official capacity. Like, I'm not covering practices or covering games. So it's actually kind of nice. I mean, I wish we were winning games, but it's actually kind of nice to be able to just watch the games at home without having to think about doing pregame shows or postgame shows or covering the games. So I've enjoyed the relaxation aspect of it. So it was a fun game at times today. Not very fun the way it ended. We ended up watching, as Brian mentioned, more of that Pittsburgh-Denver game almost than we did Dolphins power outage early on, and then the weather delay, the lightning delay early in the second half. So just a weird day. We had about an extra 40 minutes of this game, and I'm just happy that even though the game was not the way we wanted it to finish, I get to at least commiserate with 4 other Dolphins fans. So thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure, and hey, even with the Dolphins and Heat losing, at least your Canes got a big conference win, right?
Yeah, I was happy about that. I had a good feeling about that game. I know that people were pretty high on Louisville, and they were a slight favorite in that one. I think it's because Miami looked a little bit suspect at cornerback in their opening game. So they thought, Louisville's going to feast on their corners. Tutu Atwell's going to have a huge day. He did have a pretty big day regardless. But I just had a good feeling Miami's offense could score. And here we are. My Canes won. My Dolphins lost. So, hey, I'll take the split, I guess.
Some of those Canes was pretty. Well, I put money on it, so that always makes it a little bit.
So
more,
did I. It was a very happy birthday.
But what did we get? Like 2 75-yard touchdowns in a row, like on 2 consecutive possessions. It was definitely exciting. I just want to make a little preface before we jump into the talking points of the show. We do have to realize we all are a little bit depressed. Nobody likes to lose. We all get in our emotions right after a big loss, especially to a division foe. But we do have to remember before we get into this, this is a very young team. I think we have 2 of the top 3 youngest players in the NFL on this team with Austin Jackson and Noah Igbenogany. We have 11 draft choices. We have a bunch of free agents. We didn't have a preseason. So there is a lot of room for this team to gel together, to emerge as leaders, to get it together. It just didn't happen today. So we will get gloom and doom, but let's remember that we could be on the up and up.
Add week 2, close the franchise. We're done. 2 weeks in, over.
That's it. Pour some out for it. That's the franchise.
Turn the lights out. Shut it down.
They did that.
I know.
Hey, you like that? See, nature turned the lights out for us. It already knows. That's a wrap on the season, guys. So getting into some of our gloom and doom here, we're going to go ahead and launch with that. We had 4 plays from the 2-yard line, the play calling, no field goal. It kind of cost us the game there. Brian, why don't you take us into that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't understand what happened there. Matt Breida had a really nice run that got us to the 2-yard line, and then bye Matt Breida. And we threw 2 passes. Ryan Fitzpatrick tried to run it in, and we ran it once with Jordan Howard. We spent a lot of money for Jordan Howard to be a bulldozer. We spent a lot of money in free agency on the interior of that offensive line. We have a fullback. We spent a lot of draft resources on offensive line. So to have the ball on the 2-yard line and not be able to pick up 2 yards, and the play calling was just so suspect. That fade route to Gesicki, my mom, who doesn't watch football, could have called that play was coming. It should have been 4 runs to Howard or 3 runs to Howard, and we kick a field goal. If we would have kicked a field goal, we have a chance for overtime. It stinks that turned out to be the story of our game.
Mm-hmm. Alex, you look like you've got something on the tip of your tongue. Tell me, what were your thoughts on the play calling down there in the red zone?
I didn't like it whatsoever. I agree. Should have pounded the rock. Once you get tricky with those passes, and we had a really costly Preston Williams drop. It's just too high percentage of an area. Even if your offensive line is kind of growing into the season, I still think you need to take your chances running the football. I mean, it's a lesson that Pete Carroll learned in a Super Bowl a few years back. So it was frustrating to say the least. I mean, the opportunities were there, at the end of the day, and I'm sure we'll segue into this at some point. For as much as the offense struggled, I put a lot of it on the defense and on the coverage. And I know you're going up against great players, and Stephon Diggs had himself a day, and Josh Allen. I don't understand why this guy takes as much crap as he does, because, I get it. When he came into the league, he was really, really inaccurate, but I see him getting better before my eyes. Like, he's always been a running threat. And I know that they were talking about this on the broadcast today, Feely and Spiro Didis. You don't usually see quarterbacks develop accuracy once they get into the NFL, but Josh Allen may be the exception to that rule. So it was really hard to win this game when you couldn't stop them from chucking the rock all over the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will admit I've been a Josh Allen hater. I
definitely was his rookie year. I really was. His rookie year, I was not a believer whatsoever, but it's one of the rare times I've been wrong about a quarterback, I think.
Likewise, but which takes us into it. He kind of dissected our secondary back there. I mean, we've got Howard, Rowe, Jones, McCain, $40 million, 2 high draft picks on the secondary. Jason, what the hell's going on there? What was that money actually being spent on?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you got to hope that Byron Jones is okay. He left with an injury. So that's just, if he was in the whole game, maybe things don't happen the way that they did. But you know what? Noah Igbenogany, and I guess this is semi a knock, but he is the youngest player in the league, and he played like it today. He looked lost. And if it wasn't for a very successful training camp and early on, week 1, he showed why he is the literal youngest player in the league, and he needs to get back on week 3 on Thursday night and fix what was, his problems. And he really could have had an interception, on that sideline play. He really could have just gone for the ball. And, Nick Needham got in there. He was checking Cole Beasley early, and Beasley got the better of him a lot. And unfortunately, this is a young secondary. They need to gel together. Xavier Howard missed a pick. I mean, there was so many things that could have happened. And, yeah, I really hate to say that the secondary was the weakness because, hey, listen, they were the number 1 defense last year in pass defense or last week, right? So that's fallen by the wayside. So it was unfortunate to see that.
It certainly was. Drew, what did you see? What did you think of how that unit performed?
That unit performed really badly. I mean, you got to be honest with it, but they were also set up to fail. The lack of running the ball puts them on the field too often to have that happen. 6 minutes left in the game, you don't run the ball at all. You end up behind the sticks because you didn't run the ball, and then the defense is right back out there. If you keep doing that to the defense, eventually they're going to pick you apart. It's just going to happen. There's going to be a breakdown somewhere, and the Bills took advantage of it, and somehow Josh Allen keeps getting more accurate and plays like freaking Joe Montana or Jim Kelly whenever he's facing us.
Savak, I got to weigh in on this before I just explode and my walls go red.
Please.
Yeah. So Jason said that Igbenogany played awful, and I honestly don't think Igbenogany did play awful. He was pretty close with Stephon Diggs throughout that game. The problem was the coaching staff. The other side of the field has John Brown and Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard came into the league as the second highest paid corner in the NFL. And you have him on their number two receiver, and you let a rookie go against one of the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL, the guy that we knew going into this game could not beat us, but could beat us and would beat us if we didn't stop him. They gave Noah zero help. There was no double team on him. They just put this kid on an island with an all-pro wide receiver. Noah Igbenogany is the youngest player in the NFL. Switch it up. He would have done great against Cole Beasley. Put Howard on the guy that could destroy our life. And I do have to say what Jason said about Howard. He had an opportunity to win the game. We're up by 3 points. The ball hits him in the hands. He has to make that play. He makes that play, and we're all happy right now. But that secondary, even with the Jones injury, we have so much invested, and we just gave up a career-high 400 yards to a guy that has been pinned as a very inaccurate quarterback. We couldn't lose that way. And, like if we wrote a script of how that game was going to go, that's what you want. Make Josh Allen sit in the pocket and dissect us with his arm. And you would have never imagined with this $50 million secondary that would happen. But that's exactly what happened.
And I do believe that is the main source of the frustration with this loss, is that the secondary has been touted as the strongest part of this team, at least coming into this season. So to see it go down like that against Josh Allen, who we've all had some colorful opinions about, is pretty sad. Which does take us, you mentioned that Noah didn't get any help with Diggs. That kind of takes us into our safety conversation. Bobby McCain, he's an issue back there. As you had mentioned before we started recording, he looked a little lost at times. And as Brian had alluded to, Earl Thomas is available. Now, we already know what Jason's opinion is on that. Now, what would you think, Alex, about potentially bringing in Earl Thomas or just finding anybody to take Bobby McCain's place up there?
Well, I like Earl Thomas. I don't have a whole lot to add to what you say, except it's incredible to me that Bobby McCain has gotten this much run at safety when the guy, in my eyes, he's a nickel corner. I mean, that's his natural position. That's, I can't remember how many years ago it was he arrived, but when he arrived in Miami, it was not to play safety. It was to play as a nickel corner. And he has now gelled, kind of transitioned into this role. And at times he did all right last year, but it's just not his natural position. And so it shouldn't really be surprising to anyone to see him getting exposed in a big divisional game like this.
I mean, he gave up with the lack of free safety. He gave up the winning touchdown. That was on him. He just he looked lost most of the game. And what Alex said is right. The guy's a good nickel cornerback. We need a good nickel cornerback right now. I don't know if you guys watched the last 2 weeks, but we've gotten torched over the middle of the field. So it only makes sense to put somebody back there at free safety and move Bobby to his natural position.
Absolutely. They're eating us up in the middle of the field, but of course the defense is only half the problem, really. The biggest concern to me, at least, while I'm watching, is this offense. We have no identity on offense. The Fitz Magic show is not an offensive scheme. So the question now is, Brian, is it Tua time?
Yeah. So, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that we lost this game because of Ryan Fitzpatrick. He played all right today. He put us in some positions to win. But the problem is, so Myles Gaskin had 7 attempts for 46 yards. That's a 6.6 average. Matt Breida had 7 attempts for 37 yards. That's a 5.3 average. The problem is they only ran the ball 14 times between those two guys. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw the ball 40 times. We did not bring Chan Gailey in to have an offensive scheme of backyard fun football. The only reason I would say it might be Tua time is this offense needs an identity. We it looked like by bringing in Chan Gailey, what we did with Jordan Howard and Matt Breida in the offensive line, it looked like we were going to try to run the ball, try to beat people up in the middle. But instead, the team that we built, we're not doing. We're just playing backyard football. And if we're going to do that and we're going to sit here and lose, it might be time to just start giving Tua that experience, but also giving this team an identity.
Couldn't agree more. And I mean, that's the problem. This is not the offense that was advertised to us when Chan Gailey did his introductory press conference. Jason, what are your thoughts? Tell me.
I mean, I don't think it's to a time just yet because, I mean, I also didn't think that a win was imminent if you have Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing nearly 50 times. I was really a proponent of saying if you could run the ball 35, 40 times, that's going to equate to a win. A couple of negatives from Fitz, but he did do okay. He did fine. Kept the slate clean, didn't turn the ball over. The late touchdown to Gesicki was a late touchdown, what have you. But the rapport with him and Gesicki was fantastic. I was very happy with number 88. Was not really thrilled with the drop by Preston. That I thought wasn't the greatest play, but he should have had it. And the goal line usage and the goal line inability to punch it in is, for me, the absolute biggest concern because, and I think Alex referenced, in agreement with Brian, the bad play calling there. You don't have any ability to become effective passing there if you can't run and create some sort of a play action or a fear factor. And that's what they brought Howard in for. That's what the offensive line was invested in to just, oh, wow. It's almost like Ricky Williams or even Jay Ajayi, where it's, a short yardage situation. It should be academic. It's the NFL. You got to get a yard push and let your running back do the rest. They're 2 for 9 in basically that so far, and it's unacceptable.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I have to get everybody's opinion on this. Drew, what do you think? Tua time?
Not yet, only because I don't know who's actually checking out and making the call to go on those runs. That would be my biggest question, because even if we put Tua in there, I don't want Tua, a rookie, throwing it 47 times.
Yeah.
And somebody needs to let Chan Gailey know you can run the ball whenever. Like, whenever you want to, you can run the ball. You don't have to wait till you're at the goal line and say, okay, we're going to run 60% here. You can do it whenever. It was working. There was no reason not to. And please quit running play action without running the ball. It makes no sense. There is no fear. That's all I got.
That's fair. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, but Alex, I'm sure you don't want to be put on the spot here. Nobody ever wants to be the one that says, yes, we need to put the kid in there. But what do you think?
I don't mind being put on the spot, but it's not Tua time. I don't want the timetable with Tua to change just because of what's happening with the offense. I think in his case, this is not, a break glass in case of emergency. Like, I think that they have like a real plan to bring Tua along slowly. And I know it can be a little frustrating when we're seeing Joe Burrow starting already and Justin Herbert starting for the Chargers today. So, if there are any impatient Dolphin fans out there that say, okay, I see these other rookies playing already and playing pretty well, I want to see our guy. I just think it's different in this case for two reasons. I mean, reason number one being, even though he has a clean bill of health, when you're still coming off hip surgery, I want to be very careful. That's number one. And then number two would be in the fact that this team is still not looking at this as a win now type of situation. We've had to adjust our expectations because for virtually my entire life, I mean, I grew up in the Marino years, and then even, for the last 20 years, nobody really wanted to admit that this team was average. Like, we were still always saying, hey, maybe this is the year we make the big push. Whereas now, it's certainly the last 2 years have taught us that, we're going into the first time in my lifetime, we're going into a rebuilding mode. I think we're still in that this year. So, as much as I want to win games, and maybe Tua right now could give us a better chance to win, maybe not, I don't want to rush him in just because we're frustrated with the way the offense is going. I think we'll see him at some point this year. But, hey, if it's not until late October, maybe sometime in November, I'm fine with that because I want it to happen on their terms, not mine.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Drew.
Hey, I got one more thing, and this was actually from Brian, so I'll let Brian talk about it. He made an observation about the sacks that Fitzpatrick was taking before we got on the air, and a rookie watching that.
Yeah, so he got sacked 3 times today. There was only one of those sacks that was actually he didn't have a chance to throw the ball. The other 2 sacks were he was playing around back there. He could have thrown the ball away 2 or 3 times. One of the sacks, I believe it was Ford, had a slant pattern that was wide open that he just missed. He pumped it. But yeah, it's not like the offensive line is putting this guy in extreme danger. And I just want to say it again. I'm not saying Tua for the sake of Fitzpatrick is playing awful. Some of the older fans might remember when Jimmy Johnson came in, like Don Shula and Dan Marino, just basically Dan Marino got to do whatever he wanted to do on offense. So when Jimmy Johnson came in and took over, they started scripting plays to make sure that they ran the ball. And that's, if we're going to keep Fitzpatrick in, he needs to take some of that clout away from him, because it looks like that, and we don't know this for sure, but it looks like Fitzpatrick is just back there. He knows Chan-Gailey's offense really well. And it looks like he has complete clout to do whatever he wants to do. And it appears that this team on offense is playing like they're 3 touchdowns down on the first drive of the game. He's just throwing it up, shotgun every play, not trying to develop a running game. So, the only reason I would be for Tua is to get that discipline, to get that set. We need to have a set offense and create some kind of offensive identity, because we don't have one right now.
Agreed. I mean, Fitz does appear to have full autonomy within the offense. So we've got to get it figured out. We've got to find that balance that Chan-Gailey talked about, or else we better start compiling that short list of new offensive coordinators, because this isn't really working right now. But which does bring us, though, we talked about the run game a little bit. So, Drew, why did we pay for Howard and trade for Breida if Myles Gaskin was going to end up being the most effective back in that group?
I think a bigger question is, why aren't all the backs getting more touches? Because when you look at what we're set up to do, every time Fitz scrambles and you see him get those 4 or 5 yards, it's because the defense does not care, because they know he's only at 4 or 5 yards. He's not that fast. They're not worried about it. Every single time you see that, we probably should have run the ball. And I know that's easy to say, from the sidelines sitting on my couch. I don't get paid to do this for a living, but you could have run the ball there. They're not afraid of the run because they don't think you're going to run it, especially when the time gets short. And you saw that with 6 minutes left, no runs. You end up, they knew it. Everybody knows the ball's not getting run. And that's how you end up 2nd and 19, because Fitz didn't throw the ball away. You have to give these guys touches. You paid them. That's why you paid them. I think you can run all 3 backs. There's no reason you can't. You've got the fastest guy in the NFL. Get him in some space.
I mean, it is rather curious. Both of these guys, Matt Breida and Myles Gaskin, averaging over 5 yards per carry. Actually, Gaskin over 6 yards per carry. Yet we only had 14 rush attempts. That's insanity. Alex, what are your thoughts on this group of running backs?
They need more opportunities. I'm honestly not quite sure why Chan-Gailey is even here, outside of the fact that he's coached Ryan Fitzpatrick before. So, maybe Flores just thought, he can really hit the ground running with Fitz because they have a relationship. I've never really been high on Gailey, at least not in the 21st century. I mean, the guy's a fossil. He's been around forever. Like, in the in the 90s, I was a fan of what he was doing. So this is really not the offensive coordinator I want in 2020. And, he's a pass-heavy guy, obviously. And, the big thing for me, you guys mentioned the yards per carry. And listen, even if those numbers may not be sustainable over several more carries, they deserve the opportunity. Not only are you doing your quarterback a favor to take some of that pressure off of him and open more things up down the field, I think you're also doing your offensive line a favor, because when we're talking about, a group that needs to do a little more rapport building together, and you've got a young group. I think to be able to take a little bit of the pressure off of pass protection and allow them to try and do some more work in the running game is going to do a lot of good. I think that's got to be a big point of emphasis. It's a short week coming up, so you're not going to have a whole lot of time to reflect on this game. You got a Thursday nighter, but I don't know. And I'm sure Flores and Gailey are going to have several sit downs between now and Thursday, and I would love it. And hopefully Gailey realizes this for himself, and he doesn't need Flores to tell him. But I hope the topic gets brought up that, hey, like what we're doing right now isn't working. Why don't we emphasize the running game more next time around and see if that can really benefit the entire offense, because I think it will.
I agree. Go ahead, Brian.
First of all, Alex, we're cutting that line, and we're going to put that on we have a very big website launching in a couple of weeks, and that might be awesome. That might be the first thing that you see when you get to our website. I have not liked Chan Gailey in the 21st, at least not in the 21st century. But yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? It just doesn't add up. He was brought in, because of his relationship with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And, I hated the hiring at the beginning. But, if we're going to have Ryan Fitzpatrick here as the mentor for a young quarterback, you'd want him to understand the offense. But the other thing about Chan Gailey that was attractive, I would have to believe, is his history in the NFL as an offensive coordinator. There's only been 2 years that he hasn't been top 10 in rushing offense. Last year, we were the worst team in the NFL in running the ball. So we figure we bring in Chan Gailey to run the ball. The only 2 years that he wasn't in the top 10 was that horrible year in Kansas City. I think Cleo Lemon even went with him there. Who played quarterback that year in Kansas City? It was an awful year. They went like 115. And also the year in the Jets where they were down to Bryce Petty as their quarterback because Fitzpatrick got injured. But every other year where he's actually had his players top 10 in running the ball. So I think it has to be on Fitzpatrick. I think Fitzpatrick has to take a lot of this. I can't imagine coming up with the game plan and saying we're going to throw the ball 50 times with a 37-year-old quarterback when we just went out and got all these running backs. It doesn't make sense to me. So maybe Jason can tell us how this happened.
Well, I can't tell you how it happened. I don't get paid for that, but I don't get paid for any of this. But anyway, what Fitzpatrick's problem was the plays at his disposal and utilizing the people on the field. Only 14 carries between the two guys that were doing well the entire game. 6.6 yards per carry for Myles Gaskin, 5.3 for Breida. But what I was upset with Chan Gailey is that this is not the NFL that we see. We see offenses like how Eric Bieniemy runs in Kansas City or how Sean McVay calls his plays in Los Angeles. Kyle Shanahan, how he utilizes his zone blocking scheme for his plethora of running backs, how New England uses their runners from last year in a running back by committee. There's a formula and a way to do this, but Chan Gailey, as Alex mentioned way back in previous century, this is not that century. And yes, Alex, that was one of the greatest things I've ever heard. So that is going to be top line of the website, indeed. But I will say this. Is there talent on this offense? Oh, yeah. Mike Gesicki is going to be a top 6 tight end in this league. And he got targeted 11 times, 8 catches. 2 of them were ridiculous. One of them was highlight reel that we'll probably see as a top 2 play, the one-hander. And you got a running back in Myles Gaskin who, calm me down if I need to be, but he's looking like one of those small, shifty backs who can help out like an Aaron Eckler, run, pass catching. He could do a little bit of it all because he finds his way through those spaces. He might be more of a utilized guy in the goal line than Jordan Howard, because Jordan Howard is, batting below the Mendoza line in success rate, and that's not good. So there's offensive capabilities here. This team played really lousy and lost by 3 points. So I don't think it's time to make a drastic change. But one last point, and then I want to get other people talking. This team in 2008, I compare what we are in now a lot to the crazy 2 years between 2007 and 2008. They started 0-2. Maybe it takes a Thursday night short week to throw a small install in with maybe a couple of different weird variations of a run. Use those speed merchants. This is the week of short prep to change things up and maybe not say Wildcat, get something funky out there.
Savak, you didn't tell Jason that the positive part of the show is at the end, and the Jaguars part is at the end as well. Jason, we're not to the positive part yet. We got to talk about Gesicki later.
I'm sorry.
I'm an ultimate optimist. Sometimes I have to lump it all in.
I thought
else
it was
forget.
implied. See, but
Oh,
that's been my concern, though, with Chan Gailey, is that in his introductory press conference, he said a couple things. One of the things he said was he wanted there to be balance. That we did not see that this week. And the other thing that he said was he believes that you need to have a scheme that you can adjust for the players that you have. And we didn't see a lot of that. So that's where my concern lies. Drew, what are you thinking about this offense, about the adjustments or lack thereof?
There's not really much more to say about it other than what we've already said, which is the lack of running the ball is destroying everything else going and being as predictable as possible with what you're going to do. If you're trying to scheme to get players open, I mean, there was one play, I can't remember exactly what part of the game it was, second half, and they run the ball. And then Gesicki, the next play, is actually open because they're actually honoring the run after they got gashed for like 9 yards. That's how you do that. You when the run is working, let it work. I understand if they're, getting stopped at, for a yard or two each time, but that wasn't the case. Every time they ran, it was successful because the Bills were not honoring the run. Do exactly what the Patriots did last week to Miami. If they're not going to honor it, they're going to let us run it. Because every time Fitzpatrick is out there and he gets those 5 yards, every time we could have ran the ball.
Sounds like we should all be calling the plays for Miami right now.
my number's on Twitter. So
I'm getting ready to shoot my resume over. So by show of hands, did anyone see Shaq Lawson or Emmanuel Ogbah? Anybody? No. Alex, did you happen to catch? No.
Didn't Lawson?
It's crazy. I mean, we talked about expensive additions in the secondary. I mean, think about expensive additions on the line and in the front seven, and we're just not getting enough disruption. I mean, it's been a problem at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, but the defensive line, it's been really frustrating to watch because obviously the Bills have big time playmakers on offense, but you're not going to stop anything if you're not getting that pressure and you're not plugging those holes up front. So if I had any hair left, I would have been pulling it out watching that defense.
It was bad. That's why we lost that game. Their secondary, it had a lot of pressure. We lost Byron Jones, but secondary is going to hold up when Josh Allen has 5 seconds back there. Even Christian Wilkins didn't have a great game. I didn't see Raekwon Davis, who we were hoping we're going to have, but those two ends that we brought in to finally fix this pass rush, being completely invisible for the second week in a row is rough. The other thing I hated on the defense is the only times I saw Jerome Baker today, he got stiff-armed twice by running backs and got put on his back. He made no impact plays and he got faced twice. That front seven needed to do more last week. It needed to do more this week. And, we knew the offensive line was in everything on that side of the ball was going to take a lot of time to adjust. A lot of rookies and a lot of young guys. We didn't take that approach on defense. We brought in a lot of, expensive vets and to be getting this play, from guys like Ogbah and Lawson. And I know Lawson did get injured. I don't think he missed most of the game though. But Jerome Baker was, after what he did last week, to follow it up with just a complete embarrassment this week was but if we could have put some pressure on Allen, he doesn't throw for 400. It gave me flashbacks, I think, to the 92 or 93 AFC Championship game where Jim Kelly just completely destroyed my dreams of ever seeing Dan Marino in a Super Bowl again, just picking apart our whole defense. But it would be nice to see some defensive ends.
That it would. I mean, we were hoping so with the signings and the contracts going out, hoping, okay, this might actually solve these issues that we're having up front here. Not so much. But I guess now – Drew, you got something?
Yeah, just one thing we got to add to that, though, is I know we're beating up on the defense a lot, but
We're not the only ones.
Yeah, we didn't do it. The Bills beat up on the defense a lot.
okay, I'll give you that's fair. But they played complimentary football at points during the game. The offense wasn't able to get in after 4 downs. They held them, made them punt short, and the offense was able to get back down the field. If we could start, if those things can start happening on a consistent basis, they'll win some games. But the offense has to start firing right off the bat and not constantly leave the defense to get tired at the end of the quarter.
I think you nailed it right there, and is actually something that I too had mentioned before we got on. Inconsistency ruled the day. You know, it seemed like when the defense was working, then we'd get the ball back, and the offense wasn't working. When the offense was working, then the defense stopped working. And we just need to be able to find that level of consistency throughout the entire team, and then we'll start winning some games.
With that, Savak, let's all take a deep breath. We'll pay some bills for a second, and then we'll move on to some positive parts of the game. How does that sound, guys?
Beautiful.
Right at this moment, there are men everywhere, doing manly things. Beards unkempt, hair run amok, leaving them in a state of hair despair. And that's just what we can see. Never mind what's going on downstairs. But it doesn't have to be that way. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com and enter our promo code FINSUP to save an instant 20%, get free shipping, and help quell the hair despair in your life. These bearded bros are counting on you. Won't you help them?
It's always so hard to hit the stop share button at the end of that video because that guy dancing with the worst hair in the world it makes me laugh every time. I would never want to stop the share. I gotta say, like, they're sponsoring us and they're giving us money to put this stuff on there. But I got my Manscaped package and holy crap, this thing is awesome. As I shared the other day, I trimmed the hedges in 0 nicks. I started using the ball deodorant. Wow. It's like some freshness that I didn't even know existed down there. And I will admit today even I used the 3.0. I cleaned it up a little bit and I shaved the face. No nicks there. Got super even. The mustache is popping. Go to manscaped.com, use the code FINSUP, get 20% off and free shipping. Your girlfriend, your wife, your mistress, they will love you for it.
True story. That lawnmower is the truth, the Lawnmower 3.0, because you can really use it everywhere, facial hair, downstairs. Like I've said to you guys before, you want to trim yourself, trim your wife, trim your cat. I mean, it'll work on everything. 0 nicks. You got the soft ceramic blades. It's 100% waterproof and has a little LED light so you can see what you're doing. Get on there and go get it. And if you get that kit, it comes with this awesome leather bag, which is awesome because I've just fit everything in there. It's great. Which I guess will take us over into our positives. I know we already touched on it, but Jason, do you have anything else to offer about Mike Gesicki? We know he was really the brightest spot on that offense, really of the whole team. But what do you think?
Adding to that, if you can get consistency from Parker and health from Parker, if you could create that, and we said the word identity, you know what? Let's have a running identity. I don't care who. It could be a joint venture, but there has to be some sort of, lack of a better word. You're right, an identity. They have none. It's just they're down, shotgun, throw, yay, 10 yards. But it's got to be a little bit different. They have to have a little bit more creativity, but I was extremely thrilled with the way that Gesicki played. He wanted the ball each and every time. It was a contested catch, it seemed like. And you got to build off that. But Preston Williams, this isn't a positive. He's got to work on the drops, the big drops. This is like his 3rd end zone drop or 2nd end zone drop. But and I will just say one thing. The next time a network decides to go dark or cut it out. They trying to kill me during a Preston Williams review. I was not doing well during that moment. So, you know, it was a rough day, but there was some positives. And again, you lose by 3 to a team that had a 400-yard, 4-touchdown passer. So you take the good and the bad, but, you know, what can you do? It was a loss.
Facts of life.
I wasn't going to say it, but, you know, I'm a child of the 80s, so I guess that resonates in my head.
That's right. It's just like Sam from Perfectville said, Fitzpatrick's life.
That's why it's in my head. Exactly right.
It's
Hey.
a good one.
Hey, Alex, did you see that one-hander?
Oh, that was ridiculous. Yeah, and you know, if we're talking positives, of course, the number one guy who jumped off the page.
Prevent it. You can get vaccinated.
Oh, sorry. I think. Oh, well,
Good to know.
Did we just find out there's a vaccination for COVID? Alex, did you just cure it? What just happened?
I don't know. Maybe it was like sound playing from my computer. My apologies. I don't know what that. I didn't know if that was coming from your end or mine. But
If there's a vaccination for Josh Allen for the next time up in Buffalo for January, let's use that.
Right?
we just broke some news on that Josh Allen vaccination.
Yeah,
No, but
right.
let me continue on the Gesicki track. I mean, the one-handed catch was insane, and it reminds me of why this guy was drafted in the first place. You know, he was pretty hyped up coming out of Penn State. I didn't watch enough Penn State football when he was there, so what I did was, like a lot of people, in the weeks leading up to the draft, I went and pulled up the highlight reels on anybody who might be in the Dolphins' radar. And when I got to Mike Gesicki's highlight reel, my God, I mean, making catches like that all through his time at Penn State. And, you know, obviously when he first came into the league, there was some disappointment on. He couldn't block well enough to really stay on the field, and the development was a bit stunted. But no, we're now seeing, and, you know, from as advertised. And I think for this offense, and hell, really for any offense, an athletic pass catching tight end can be such an important cog. And, you know, to see him go out there and have the best game on that offense without a doubt was just gigantic. You know, I'd also throw in a bit of a positive for Devontae Parker. He scored a touchdown. He fought for a couple of his catches, which is really a really important thing for him, because the Dolphins need a guy like that who's going to fight for the ball with defensive backs. So those are the primary positives for me. I mean, Fitz played an okay game. You know, it was kind of a typical Fitz game. Well, I mean, not that typical because there were no interceptions, thankfully. But when it came to, you know, the big yardage and a little bit of that being empty yardage, but decent-looking stats, that's the Ryan Fitzpatrick game. So he was fine. But, you know, Gesicki for me was the number one.
I'm sorry, Jason, I got to ask you a question to just shake your head, yes or no. So Gesicki had 8 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. Is that his first 100-yard game as an NFL player?
Yes, it is.
I thought so. I'm so happy for this guy. So unlike Alex, I loved Gesicki in college. That last year at Penn State was so exciting. I mainly was watching, I'll be honest, for Saquon Barkley, but McSorley to Gesicki stole the show a lot of times, and I was really, really excited when we drafted him. I told my wife, I'm buying this. You never buy a second-round picks jersey right off the bat. You don't do that. Maybe top 10 pick like Tua, you do. But I told her, I was like, I'm buying this kid's jersey before he even straps up and plays one game. But then he had 88 in college, and Leonte Carew at the time had 88. So he took 86. So I knew that wasn't going to stick.
What are you doing to me?
I know. Jason has an 86 Gesicki jersey. But there's a point here. So, and then he really, you know, I got to say, like, I pay a lot of attention to the Miami media, a lot of the beat writers down there. And after that first year, you know, you would have thought Mike Gesicki was a leper. You know, like they left that kid out to die. And he really emerged at the end of last year. He's been great this year. He's such a good dude. If you've seen like the videos on MiamiDolphins.com with him and Durham Smythe, they're so funny. He's done a couple of ads for us. He's just a great guy. So I'm saying this online. So I'm going to order the jersey finally on year 3 with the 88 and finally come true on a promise I made 3 years ago. So as soon as I get that, I will debut it on the show, and that number 88 is coming my way the kid freaking deserves it. I mean, there is 2 just circus catches. And I like what Alex said about Parker. He had an impressive stat line today, but more impressively, he had a hamstring injury. And what has been the knock on Devontae Parker his entire career? When he gets a nick, he can't play. He was nicked up, and the guy balled today. So, if that's a sign of what's to come, that's, something really exciting to hold your hat on as soon as this offense finally does find its identity.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys are much braver than I am, because I have vowed now ever since the last jersey I bought, the next jersey I buy is just going to have my name on it, because I know they're not going to cut me.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, the low-key burn. I got to go put some ice on that one. But you know what?
Savant's got a no-trade clause. He ain't going anywhere.
It's true. Brian was letting another show know. I won't say which one, but he will let them know, put them on notice. But we got to say one of the positives, though. I know that the team still isn't performing where we would like them to be performing, but they are making progress, because the scores at this point in this year are much better than they were at this same point last year. Last year, the score, we were outscored 10-112. This year, it is more like 39-52. So, Alex, are you happy with this progress? Do you think we are trending in the right direction, and do you think we are moving at the proper pace?
That's a tough one, because I don't know. It's hard for me to compare this team 2 games in to last year 2 games in, because I think at this time last year, a lot of us were thinking that 0-16 was a distinct possibility. So I'm not really going to compare but I'm not all negative about it, believe me, because on the other hand, it's 2 games in, and these weren't easy games. I mean, you were on the road at New England week 1, and you're home, but with 13,000 fans, so it's not really a home field environment against the best team in the division to start the year. So it's not a great way to start a season. So I'm not down on it yet. I think when we were talking about the negatives, we outlined a lot of the things that need to improve in the coming weeks. So I don't need to revisit all of that, but this team isn't that far away. I don't see why they can't improve even on the 5 wins that they had last year. I still expect them to be better than a 5-win team this year, despite the 0-2 start. I mean, it was an 0-7 start last year, so it's within the realm of possibility. I'm not expecting playoffs this year, but I'm also not going to overreact to the point where, like, I see these geniuses on Twitter, already saying, "Oh, you guys thought Brian Flores was a good coach? Oh, he's proving you wrong." Like, okay, hold on. I'm not going to overreact and write the guy off 2 games into a new season. So I still think that despite some of the negatives and despite 0-2, this team is still moving in the right direction. I mean, we haven't even seen Tua Tagovailoa play yet. So to those out there who are already, trying to really question Coach Flo, slow your roll a little bit.
Absolutely. So I guess moving on to this coming week, we now have the short week. We will travel to Jacksonville. Well, the team will travel to Jacksonville. I'm already here.
You're waiting for him.
That's right. I will be attending that game. So it's very interesting how they've been playing, too. I know a lot of people thought they were tanking for Trevor. Well, somebody tell the team that, because those players do not seem to believe it. They're a very well-coached team, and I think we're seeing the results of that right now. So it should be a very interesting matchup. I was happy to see that Isaiah Ford emerged, has really taken on the role as our slot receiver. He is the guy. Brian, what are your thoughts of this matchup this week? How you think it's going to go?
Yeah, no one told any of the Jags players. It's a lot like what the end of last year was for us. But I mean, they right before the season started, they sold off all their assets and they're playing really well. They almost beat Tennessee today. They're 1-1. They're playing really well, but teams are, what everyone thinks is that we should go in there and it should be an easy game. And the Tua cries aren't loud right now, but if we go to Jacksonville next week and we don't get a win, there's going to probably be, helicopters with signs following behind it in Miami to play Tua. It'll get weird if we don't win in Jacksonville. And, hopefully we can go up and get it done. I'm a little scared. I have some of that mustache power that Minshew has, and you can't underestimate it. The dude's just been on fire. Looking forward to the short week. I got to get this game out of my system. So, and I'm excited for the Thursday. Next weekend won't be as stressful for me trying to watch the game and get this show together. And like I said, we have I'm not going to tell anybody who it is. I might have said it on another show, but we have a guest tomorrow that we're recording that is one of the all-time Miami Dolphin greats. So, definitely stay tuned for that. And can't wait to we'll be back. We're going to come back early this week on Wednesday with the Jacksonville preview, and we'll take a deeper look at that. But Jason, how do you feel about what's going down in Savak's hometown?
Well, I'm a lot more excited about tomorrow's interview than I am about Thursday, because if we made Josh Allen look like Jim Kelly, I'm afraid that Gardner Minshew will be making to look like the right-handed Mark Brunell in Jacksonville. So I'm terrified. They need to fix this. And when I say this, that the defense, in terms of just how they performed, making a quarterback who is really kind of maybe middle to top 14, 15 in the league, really looked like he was a top 3 elite quarterback. So you got something similar brewing with Minshew mania. There's really not a ton of talent surrounding him. I think that there's more talent in Miami than there is in Jacksonville, and both teams are coming off a 3-point loss. So let's see what happens.
Drew, what are your thoughts?
Apparently training with a soundtrack and doing a monologue and with Bud Light is the key to really getting to the next level going into the season.
Of course.
It's proven now.
80 style montage, you have to. That's what does it. Though I should point out, though, of course, for anybody who thinks that it's going to be an easy game, Jacksonville has actually done a pretty good job steering into the Minshew mania. He might not look super impressive with, his tangibles and all that, but he's pretty accurate. He's a gamer, and they brought in an offensive coordinator who can maximize what he does well. Former Redskins head coach Jay Gruden. Of course, they're not the Redskins anymore. Former football team head coach Jay Gruden. So I'm expecting him to continue playing like this, and should be quite a challenge for our secondary, but nothing that we don't have the talent to handle.
Maybe Manscaped could do us a favor and grab Minshew and get rid of that mustache, because I am 100% positive that the power is drawn from that stash. Whatever he's got going on, maybe he falls asleep. Maybe one of our listeners get the Manscaped 20% off and free shipping, and we can get a win, and we don't have to. I want to see Tua. I was one of the big guys on Tua getting into the games, but I don't want 5 weeks of our fans screaming for Tua while Fitzpatrick is playing, and the 13,000 fans booing and screaming for Tua. I lived through that with Fiedler. I don't ever want to live through that again. So hopefully we go in there, we get a win. But with that, I think it's a really good time to just wrap this up. We got to do the closing housekeeping. We were going to have giveaway a Xavier Howard signed autographed card. Maybe nobody wanted it because he dropped the game-winning interception, but we didn't really get any calls to our voicemail. So I'm not even going to talk about our hotline anymore. It's not working. Maybe at some point we'll get the hotline going. Maybe you guys could call the hotline and tell us how to make the hotline work better for us. But so we won't go to that. But definitely, give the podcast a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts live. We're on there. Like I said, we're doing a giveaway, a free hat, your choice, up to $40 from Fanatics.com. All you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel and send us a screenshot of your subscription. And again, that is youtube.com/Fin Addicts Network. Follow us on Twitter at Fin_Addicts. You know, the content's going to be even cooler soon. And like I said, we have a really first-class website. It's coming out in about a week. Very exciting. So like I said, I'm not going to talk about the hotline, but it was fun with you guys today. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. It was an honor. I'm glad your Canes won. And the soccer team, I don't remember what the name was, but thanks a lot for joining us.
It's my pleasure. And again, even after a loss, it's nice to be able to talk to other Dolphin fans and to work through it. It's like therapy, right? I mean, I like talking through these games no matter how it goes. So thank you so much for having me. And I love it. I'm a fan.
And guys, even through a loss, fins up, baby.
Fins up.